Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Wednesday, 11th September 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister defends his position to meet with gangs to seek peace among them. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda is again defending his decision to hold meetings with members of the two Drilly and Grays farm gangs amid criticism from some quarters. The Prime Minister provided more details on the Brown and Brown show on Point FM, including plans for meetings to be held with the guardians of the teenage gang members. The intervention by the Prime Minister and his team led to a truce being agreed by gangs last Thursday. Teresa Goodwin of ABS News reports.
The Prime Minister reflected on the current situation by comparing it to the year 2000, when he collaborated with community activist Luther Lee to intervene and help dismantle the Red Shirt gang in the Point and Villa communities, despite being labeled a gang leader. He emphasizes that opportunities were created for members of the gang.
The disintegration of that gang. Now, I would have found myself in a situation within the last maybe 2 years, because we all had knowledge as a society that these children were committing some heinous crimes, cutting up each other, chopping up each other, stabbing each other. We saw the posts on social media, we saw the videos of them fighting. And as a society, we never stopped to inquire precisely what was happening.
Prime Minister Brown adds that despite anticipating criticism from certain circles, he could not stand by without identifying and addressing the root cause of the issues.
I think what had happened to me, because I was labeled as a gang leader prior, I didn't want to be involved directly as Prime Minister and to be subjected to that type of classification again. And perhaps my position at the time was bordering on being selfish, because I was more concerned about the label of a gang leader once again. But having reflected on it, I said to myself, hold on a second, you're no gang leader.
Following Thursday's meeting, a few members of both groups met casually over the weekend in St. John's. In addition to engaging with the youths, the government plans to meet with their guardians as part of the rehabilitation process. Teresa Goodwin, ABS News.
In the meantime, parents could face fines of $2,000 or more if their children are found loitering on the streets during the soon-to-be-introduced curfew. The imposition of a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is among a slew of legislative measures which would have been debated in Parliament on Tuesday as part of an intensified efforts to address violence among youth. Prime Minister Brown provided an update on the matter during the Brown and Brown show on Point FM on Saturday.
It will start with a fine of about $2,000, and we'll be holding the parents responsible. So the law calls upon the parent paying $2,000 where there is any such violation, and if there's consistent violation, I think it's increased to $3,000, and then subsequently to about $5,000 and possible imprisonment.
In other but related news out of St. Lucia, that country's Prime Minister and National Security Minister Philip J. Pear is appealing for peace and goodwill among citizens as the island's homicide toll reaches 59. The Prime Minister on Monday received a crime prevention strategy from the newly appointed Acting Police Commissioner Vern Gard, which outlines the Royal St. Lucia Police Force's strategy to bring down crime over the next 6 months. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World has more.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pear announced on Monday that he had received a crime prevention strategy from the Acting Police Commissioner Vern Gard. At his first press conference last week, God announced the development of the plan with the help of members of the High Command of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
This morning I received from the Acting Commissioner of Police the Police Force Crime Prevention Strategy for the period September to March 2025. I received it this morning from the Commissioner of Police. I have just received it, and I will be going through it and have a discussion with the Commissioner of Police and the High Command on the strategy. But he has given me, as promised, a strategy which he intends to pursue over the next 6 months.
Prime Minister P.M. meanwhile has appealed to citizens to be part of the solution to the crime issue.
There is no need for us to create an increased level of animosity or hatred for our own personal reasons. Criminals have no conscience. Criminals do not choose people to victimize. We have to have a united effort. We have to try by our words not to appear to be looking for any excuses for criminality. And I just think whilst we embark on that era, on an era that is not good for our country, the era where there is an increase in gun violence. Even though there's been a 20% reduction in summary offenses, there is an increase in gun violence, and we need to have an approach towards it. Gun violence in St. Lucia has been there for a while. It's escalating now. But we should never seem, by our utterances, to be given any excuse for wanton criminality.
Calls from the public have grown louder in recent months for a stop to the senseless killings. With the murder toll now at 59, the hope is that the new head of the RSLPF will rein in the gun violence, which has contributed to the majority of killings on island since the year opened. For the DBS News World, I am Zid Romulus.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
In association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew on 6 September 2024 formally launched the national consultations and 90-day campaign against crime and violence, with representatives of the political parties from both islands being present. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline has more.
Making significant presentations at a launch event were Dr. Jeanetta Mitchison, Professor of Public Health Policy at Windsor University, Senator Peter Bunton, a former Minister of National Security in Jamaica, as well as a representative of USAID, all providing data and context specific to the Federation. In his launch remarks, Prime Minister Drew said, the data shows that if a holistic approach is not undertaken, the problem will not be resolved.
That is why you have had the problem over different political administrations. That is why I want to take the politics out of it. Because if we don't, we will never resolve the issue. So from my perspective, and I see from the perspective of other politicians as well, we have to work together to see how we can resolve this matter. And it takes all of us who are here, even beyond the politics. Law enforcement alone cannot do it, but they must do their part. But we as a society have to come up with the solutions. But when I look at the data, and I examine the data from my own professional background, there is a lot of hope right here. Because with the data, it means that we have the issues, the causes. We can define very precisely what is the problem. And if you can diagnose the problem, it gives you a great opportunity to come up with the solution. And so when you look at the presentation from USAID to assure us the gangs and where they are and so forth, they approached me and I told them, of course, we need this type of analysis and study in St. Kitts and Nevis and should have no influence at all from the government because I wanted a very objective view of what is taking place in St. Kitts and Nevis. And again, the presentation does not surprise us a lot, but at least it confirms some of our suspicions as to what is taking place in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I want to say officially and to launch from this point onwards the 90-day campaign against violence and crime. And to say that there will be a number of activities that would involve all of us. And to also say that from my perspective, this will never ever become an issue only when we see a flare in violent crimes, but that it will be a staple on the table when it comes to policies.
According to the Prime Minister, necessary resources will be provided for instituting programs and policies. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Parents of children who commit crimes could soon find themselves in hot water. This now is in Trinidad and Tobago. TV6 News provides a little details.
An inquiry would have to be done certainly to determine whether the parent erred in exercising control over their children in whatever circumstance existed. So it's not an automatic charge.
There's also the anti-gang legislation, which sort of puts an onus, just not on parents, but on other family members to ensure that they report that type of activity. So that is one part of the sleuth of legislation that is there. There's the Education Act, which mandates that children of a certain age must be in school. And any breach of that puts the parent in potential criminal liability.
The governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, meantime, is open to a meeting with the Auditor General to clear up any misconceptions with regards to public sector financial transactions and processes. Sigoni Mohammed of TTT News reports.
This according to Finance Minister Coleman Bird, who says to date, the Central Bank is yet to receive any correspondence from the Auditor General. It comes following a newspaper article on September 8th, where the Auditor General claimed that the Central Bank denied her access to the electronic check clearing system, which negatively impacted her ability to perform a proper audit of the system. This, he said, led to the understatement of some $2.6 billion in revenue for fiscal 2023.
Given the historical relationship between the Auditor General and the bank, and the important role of the Auditor General in the conduct of national affairs, the Governor remains open to meeting with and discussing any matter with the Auditor General. This meeting can form the basis for a precise and properly constituted engagement that, while not in the nature of an audit of the accounts of the Central Bank, which has already been completed, could be very informative as regards public sector financial transactions and processes.
Minister Imbert also expressed his dissatisfaction in the Auditor General's special report that instead of confirming the $2.6 billion discrepancy has been resolved and there was no money missing. The Auditor General avoided making any definitive statement on the matter.
However, the Auditor General, in her audit opinion on page 25, did not state that she was satisfied that the error in the public accounts for financial year 2023 was corrected. We view this omission on her part as a continuing campaign of non-cooperation and criticism of public officials in the Ministry of Finance by the Auditor General.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antilian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.